I want to talk to you about something almost nobody understands, and that's saxophone necks. The neck is where the sound is formed. It is where the intonation is set. None of you guys know much about them. So today we're going to talk about how necks are manufactured, how an aftermarket neck is usually different from the stock neck that came with your horn, what difference materials make, and what difference the manufacturing techniques make. Now let's see what we can learn. If you were to straighten this out, you would see we have basically a cone. A saxophone is composed of 4 cones. The neck is 1 cone, the body tube is 1 cone, the bow is 1 cone, and the bell is 1 cone. Each one should have a different taper. Why should that be? Because the overtones get progressively sharper, and the hardest thing to do in the wonderful world of saxophone design is getting the octaves to match. There are a couple of different techniques for making a cone. We can cut essentially a triangle out of whatever material we're working with, fold it over a mandrel. Some people braze the joint. Some people make 2 halves, braze both joints. Wait a minute. Each joint is a discontinuity and affects the resonance, decreases it. Well, you can braze it using silver solder or whatever, but the best way is to plasma weld it. With plasma welding, we cut little gaps, fold them together, and then we go over it with a plasma beam that's about 10,000 degrees, and they actually fuse. It makes the perfect joint. I can get both the exterior and the interior dimensions of the neck exactly where I want it. Fill the neck with different stuff. Some people use pitch. Our company uses lead. Put it in a jig and we bend it. Then comes the real magic part. We take the neck, plug one end, blow hydraulic fluid at about 800 psi, and force the neck into the sides of the mold. You have to always, when you're designing saxophones, think like a plumber and how the water flows around the pipes. You want to avoid as many spots as you can that have excessive turbulence. One guy was claiming that it is the actual angle of the neck that made a big difference. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. That angle makes a difference in how the neck interacts with your body's airstream. That being said, that's how well I can direct that airstream.
That's actually on the saxophone player.
Exactly. Don't let these guys tell you this horse manure about, well, we have a higher arc in there.
So
the taper of the neck. This is not a pure cone with straight sides. Rather, it's a parabolic cone. Why? Because the naturally occurring overtone series gets progressively sharper, and I'm trying to get the octaves to match. If you don't have a parabola in that cone, they're not going to match. It's an angle like that. Simply put, now there's more to it than this. The bigger around the neck is, the flatter the pitch. So I can use adjustments in the diameter of the interior of the tube to flatten a pitch if I know where the pressure node that hits that neck interior is. Back in the 70s, all of us knuckleheads were trying to put pickups on our horns so we could compete with Fender Stratocasters and Marshall Stacks. We had to figure out where to put the pickup. And the way you did it, you put the mouthpiece on the neck, you played the neck, and you took your index finger and you ran it across the neck until you could feel the pressure node of G. Wow. And it's right there. What we've done here is mark where all the pressure nodes are. And we have a chart so we know the name of every note. So if we take a prototype and play it, then we know where to adjust the neck. We know on this neck that the pressure node for that D2 on the saxophone is right in here. We put some extra weight right there to increase the mass. And if you look right here below it, here And here, this weight down here, this is not a brace or just a place for me to put my logo. This weight is connected, very small place, at the pressure note of D and the pressure note of G. Why? Because those are the bastard notes. Those are the notes that tend not to respond. We carefully measure, and we did something about the problem. Your horn is in all probability made of brass, and for 90% of the saxophones out there is 70% copper, 30% zinc, or it might be 25% zinc and 5% 11 herbs and spices. Ain't nobody telling. My company does not make a brass saxophone. Everything we make is rose brass, which is about 85% copper, 12% zinc, and 11 herbs and spices. Each material has a different set of resonance characteristics. This is brass, and we can thump it, and we can hear that sound. This is in solid copper, and it's different. You hear the thump is a little lower pitch. This will have more mids and lows, so the voice from that neck will more closely imitate the human voice. When I say pure copper, I'm lying to you. It's 95% copper and 5% 11 herbs and spices, because pure copper would be too soft. The 11 herbs and spices, and I'm not going to tell you what they are, give it a little more stability.
And now you're telling us all this, but how do you know? How did you get to the point?
Because I learned an immense amount from Sandy Runyon, who, of course, owned the Runyon Company, which manufactured more mouthpieces than anybody in history. And Sandy was a great teacher. He was Charlie Parker's teacher, among many other famous saxophone players. Sandy has passed away, of course, but also Oleg Garbazov, who's in the Los Angeles area for many years. Oleg was a Russian. He was a great repairman. Oleg understood about necks, and he understood about nodes. And Oleg and I spent countless hours talking to one another on the phone about the acoustics of necks. This horn right here next to me, this is one of our Category 5 models. And this horn has an altissimo octave key on it. Oh yeah. When we were designing the neck for this, I needed to consider where the pressure nodes occurred for the notes above the staff. And if I don't know where they occur, then what good is that? Of course, it has to also play the rest of the range. And most saxophones have a stuffy fourth line D. There's a reason based in science. We've done something about it on this horn, because this horn has 4 octave vents. Your horn only has 2. 4 octave vents solves that problem. And I had to consider that in the neck. Back in the early 70s, I got my first King Super 20 Silver Sonic that had a sterling silver neck and a sterling silver bell. I tried using different necks on it, and I realized that the silver neck responds quicker than the brass necks. What I have here in my hot little hands is the original neck off my 104,000 silver-plated Selmer Mark VI. I haven't modified this neck in any way. It could use good polish, I'll admit. Notice the angle, and you'll notice the taper. It's different from our more modern necks. On the top is the neck I used throughout most of the 70s and 80s, and this is what I always used on my Mark VI. This is a sterling silver Selmer neck that I got from Selmer Paris. They made this in 2 versions, a thick wall and a thin wall. I used the thin wall because it responded a little bit quicker and was just a touch brighter. At the time, we were trying to combat all these damn guitar players that were using Fender Stratocasters and Marshall stacks, so a brighter horn cut a little better and could be heard. This neck was a birthday present from the largest manufacturer of saxophones in the world. Compare this solid silver neck to the original Selmer neck. You can see on the top, this neck has a little different curve to it, and it also has a significantly different taper down toward the bottom. Once again, different neck, different response, and different sound. This is a great neck, but it's not as good as this one. This one is pen to paper, is our original design. We have one of these for just about any reasonable sax. Where can you try one out? Right here in New Orleans. You come down here, the food's better than anywhere in the world, and you get to hang out with me and Jake. every one of our necks has this SaxGourmet neck enhancer on it. That increases the mass at this end of the neck. This has a very precise taper that we calculated, and you'll be able to tell that it sounds different with this than it does without. So it's like having two necks in one. This threaded area in the tenon acts like the dimples on a golf ball. Why does a golf ball have dimples? As you hit the ball and it goes through the air, it rotates, and those dimples create a very thin layer of turbulence. Turbulence is less resistant than still air. So if I get things moving right in here, the neck is easier to blow and more responsive. Low C and low B, you get that motorboating sound. If I can increase the velocity of the airstream at the pressure node by use of these, I can make those notes more stable. If you look down inside here, you don't see a seam on the interior of the neck.
No.
Why would that be? I ain't gonna tell you. This is the first ultra premium neck that SaxGourmet products made. This one's in solid copper, has an underslung mechanism, and has a different curve and a very different taper at the bottom. We still make this neck for most saxophones. This is our Evolution solid copper neck. This is current production. Once again, a very different curve to it, significantly different taper at the bottom, plus the addition of the nodal weights and the threaded chamber. But we still sell a lot of these, particularly the guys who buy Yamahas, because Yamahas tend to be on the bright side. And this makes it sound more like a human voice. If I send you a neck to get the perfect trial, you're going to have it fit to your horn. You got to hand fit the neck to the receiver of the horn it's going to be used on. You got to take this to somebody that has what they call a can opener tool neck expander. The first expansion goes in the middle of the tenon, and it should be snug with a light finger pressure rotated around, and you see if the resistance is any greater one place to another. If it is, that's a high spot, and you got to lap it into place. Use an ultrafine lapping compound. If you don't have that, you can use toothpaste. The next expansion you guys got to make is up at the top of the tenon to this ring to keep the neck from rocking back and forth. The last expansion, should it be necessary, if it still moves down here at the bottom, you can expand the bottom third of the tenon, but that's almost rarely necessary. We make a neck for virtually all saxophones, and they're all different. Y'all remember that.